Hi guys. Looks like we're live. Sorry about the delay. We were just setting things up. Today we have with us Khulud, who I will be introducing in a bit. I just wanted to give you an intro of what life after Islam is. Let me know if this is working fine. If somebody could just give me a thumbs up before I start, that would be great. Oh, okay. Look. Oh. Okay, perfect. It looks like it's working. Great. So, Life After Islam is a series that I took to ex-Muslims, coming from different backgrounds, different walks of life. I'll be interviewing activists, non-activists, not only females. I know the past podcasts have been females. It's only because there's so many interesting people that I want to talk to, and I have had a long list. So please suggest who I should talk to next, and I will get in touch with them. Khulud, there's a number under your screen. Is that just your ID number? I might just change. Let me see if I can just
That's
change. Yeah, so I'll just change it to
that's a
your.
mistake.
Okay, let me change it. Let me see how I can change it.
I think I just entered the password instead of the
Uh,
username.
oh, that's fine. Um, I don't know how to change it on this. I guess we can just keep it for now, and I'll change it as you're talking because I think that might just be easier. Um,
Okay.
yeah, I can't change it. You'd have to change it. So, um, I think we can keep it the same, but if you'd like to exit and come back, that's entirely up to you. What would you prefer?
I think it's good to change it. I will
Okay.
just exit and come back.
Yeah. Yeah, okay, cool. That's fine. I'll just keep on talking
Okay,
anyway.
I'll leave.
Um,
Okay.
So the format of this series is typically Khulud will, like, the guest always talks about themselves, and we usually take questions at the end because I know that a lot of you have questions in the start. It just makes it easier so I'm not interrupting the other person. So if you have any questions, save it for the end, or else I'll scroll up and get your questions. You should be. I'm just going to wait for Khulud to come back before I start about her background because I think that's important. Okay, she is back. And just connect. Ah, perfect. Great, we have you now. So I wanted to introduce Khulud. I have known her for about 15 months now. It was January 2019 when we first spoke. And I'm not sure how we came into contact. Was it Twitter or Instagram?
It was Twitter, yeah.
Yeah. So we just had a talking, and this was right after Rahaf Al Qunun had um, left Saudi Arabia, was in Thailand, and had gone to Canada. So it was about a week or two after that had happened. And at that point, I was talking to a lot of Saudi Arabians just to understand what was happening because it was a big media backlash and outburst, both from Saudi Arabia and the West. And that's when Khulud got in touch with me, and we were talking for a few months before she left Saudi Arabia. So I feel like I have been part of her, I guess, her life in in the biggest ways like in the smallest ways I can, but also like part of her journey, which I've always checked up on her, and I'm like, what are you doing? Tell me everything, and we catch up as though we've known each other for 10 years. But yeah, wow, time has flown. Khulud, go ahead and introduce yourself.
Well, I introduced myself as a feminist, women's right advocate, and this comes naturally actually because of my story and from my background. And now I am writing in a newspaper, Welt am Sonntag in Germany, which is at this point I'm so proud that I reached this stage just short after I arrived Germany in after all what happened, and also yes, Zara with me step by step from Saudi Arabia to Germany, and I feel like we made this together. Uh, yeah, I'm so grateful that Twitter connected me to so many people in this field, so we could do a lot for women here or in Middle East. And yeah, I if I would like introduce myself, I am a feminist and woman.
So I guess what led you to be a feminist? And I think you can go into your background about this.
Yeah, what led me to be a feminist is my background, because I I grew up in a very difficult atmospheres and difficult place for women. Like in Saudi Arabia, it's one of the most difficult places in the world for women. Like the life, they are so like religious in a way that women feel oppressed. And also it's not because of the religion only, because I belong to a very tribal conservative society, and this affected my life in many ways. So each detail in my life was very difficult because I belong to this background or this society. That led me to be a feminist and to try to change my life in many ways.
I guess when you talk about Saudi Arabia being quite religious and bad for women, can you give us a little more insight into, I guess, what led you? So, before we even get into your ex-Muslim story, but what led you to speak out, to come out, to realize that you were in a society that was unfair to you? Because what I imagine is a lot of people, and including myself, because I had always lived in a society that to me felt normal that women were treated that way, until later on when I started reading more and I started researching more and I realized this is wrong. So I guess it would be good to understand what, in your perspective, helped you realize that that system was wrong. Because I imagine a lot of Saudi women would also, I guess it's not all women who are like you who have realized it's wrong. Some women want to be living like that. Is that the case, or would you disagree?
It's since I was teenager or even child, I believed it. I was also religious myself, and I didn't feel good wearing hijab and all, but I believed it, and I thought this is right, even if it doesn't feel good. I was so religious that even in the school, I joined groups, religious groups that talk about hadith, about Quran and all, and we were doing all this um, activities. But as I joined the university and I started to do bachelor, I realized I started to read more, to be connected to people from outside, and my language was connected me also to people outside Saudi Arabia. It helped me to communicate, and yeah, I read a lot, and also Twitter was a very big platform that led to my transformation. Like my life, all my life changed after Twitter, because there were a lot of feminists from Saudi Arabia, outside Saudi Arabia. They were talking about this subject that I've never read about or talked about. So I started to read more, to communicate with other people from different backgrounds and all, and that enlightened me. I felt like that this is wrong. This is the place I live. I did not fit in anymore, you know. I felt like I don't belong to this place, and since my thought changed and it become so unbearable to me. Before it was not so good, but you know, when you have the same mindset, you can process, you can do it in any way, like accept it, or but when you have a different mindset, when you have different thoughts and beliefs, you cannot fit anymore. So yeah, basically because of Twitter, because me reading more and more about it, because the people I communicate with, everything changed.
And you mentioned going to university. From what I've heard, there are a lot of women who were given the opportunity to go to a university, but even in that terms, their freedom is restricted. Is that true? Like, do a lot of women go to university? Is it normal, or are they restricted? It only happens with certain families.
Some people, it was before, like 10 years before I go to university, it was very restricted. But some women, including my sister, fought for this right, and they started to accept the idea. When my generation reached that point, it was available. It was not forbidden, you know. But yeah, some women still suffer, still cannot, but very few, not like before. Uh, what helps also for Saudi women to join university without any difficulties, because it's not mixed, it's also only women.
Hmm.
So that's why the families do not reject it. So they do not refuse, because all the community, all uh, community, all the workers, all the teachers, even the electricity workers are women. So there are no fear of like, yeah, men or anything inside the campus.
And I guess in your words, we all know, I guess, and we have suspicions of why men and women are segregated, one being religion. But in your words, what would you say? What is the big terrorizing factor that Saudi Arabia would like to separate the men and the women?
It's
Everywhere you go, there's a guardianship. There was male guardianship law, and I guess there's a big fear of men and women mingling, but it's always down to the woman's fault. But what do you think was a common factor when you were raised, or how you were raised, and what you were told in terms of staying away from men?
I think it's also a different, even in Saudi Arabia. Like if you go to Kuwait, Qatar, and all of these countries who have the same societies, they are not restricted as much as Saudi Arabia about this point, separating women from men. But Saudi Arabia have a very difficult tribal society, and in this tribal societies you find this is like taboo to women to be mixed with men. It's like it's something related to the honor, um, yeah, to
of
the
the fa-
honor,
of the
what we
family?
call, yeah, it's like uh, they are scared for their daughter to be mixed with men, flirting with men, then committing this crime of sleeping with men or something like that. Then the family lose their
Yeah,
honor, and it's a
yeah.
scandal, blah blah blah. This is the main point, this is the main thing. Then comes the religion after, but I think this is the main thing. Like this is the most important reason. It's the
So
honor.
yeah, so it's is it do you think the like in my experience and from what I have known, especially with Muslim Arabs and South Asian communities, the honor usually lies on the women and not the men. Is that the case in Saudi? Is it always women who can bring shame?
Yeah, exactly. Because they have this thought that women are responsible for seducing men for this to do this crime or this sin. They have this idea that they always blame the victim, even if it's rape. It's your fault.
Hmm.
So in anyway, even the rape victims in Saudi Arabia get blamed for the losing the honor of or yeah,
Of the
for the
family, yeah.
scandal of the family. So it's in all patriarchal societies. They always criticize and blame women for this, and the responsibility of protecting the honor of the family lays on the women's shoulders only. Like the men, they can do whatever they want, they can sleep with whoever they want, because they would not bring shame. It's okay, they have the freedom. They don't have this hymen thing or whatever they created to repress women. So yeah, it lays on the woman's shoulder, and it's women's fault always, because she's a sin and she's seducing men. This is their mindset.
And you could be wearing hijab and it would be the same thing.
It would be the same thing. My sister used to wear hijab, for example, when she go outside, men would, for example, harass her, flirting with her, even she's covered from head to toe. It doesn't make sense, but it's always your mistake.
Yeah, that is quite difficult, and that is, that like a lot of times people say hijab prevents rape or it prevents men from harassing them because, women are not showing off their body. But what we've noticed is, especially in communities where women are quite oppressed and where women are quite oppressed, it's always, no matter what you wear, when men think they have power over you and the laws don't that don't govern or protect women or their rights, they end up being harassed anyway, even if you are covered. I guess just with this, I wanted to know a little more about how you were raised in that patriarchal society. What was your upbringing like? What did you find that was different between your and your sisters amongst as compared to your brothers? And I'm sure you have siblings, don't you?
Yeah, I have six of them.
Oh, wow.
Uh, I have six brothers and two sisters.
Yeah.
It's actually common to have this much of siblings in Saudi Arabia, but
And is that with what, like your mom and dad, or did your dad marry another wife?
no, it's common there. But my dad was only married to my mom,
Okay.
and yeah, it was like there was discrimination in the house. Women get treated in a different way than men, and we had to adapt to this fact and live with it. My brothers used to be treated much better. They are spoiled as men, as males. They cannot do anything in the house. Like they are not required to even clean after themselves or clean their rooms or anything. We had to do all of that. The
So
sisters, they
so you would have to clean your brother's room?
yeah, my brother's room, and I have to, for example, uh, um, carry the things, from the room. If they made it dirty or anything, I have to clean it. And when they when they eat, also I have to clean after them. Like, they are not even required to clean after they eat or anything. We have to do all the job, or the maid do it. We had a maid. And yeah, they are spoiled, and always men in general in that place, they are treated like their sisters are their maids. Like, they can do anything, their sisters clean for them and prepare everything. And yeah, it was kind of normal back then.
Yeah, and I think this also, I mean, I think a lot of these attitudes are quite similar in other Muslim cultures as well, like the Somali culture,
Yeah.
the culture that I was brought up with. I guess one thing that I have found in interviewing other women was a lot of these times, it is the women, like mothers and sisters, imposing this on you because it's always been. Was that your case? Did your mom also help instill this idea that we should serve men?
Yeah, because also our moms are brought up this way, and they it's like it's uh, the same things that our moms go through, we go through again and again and again. And when the mom get subjected to this kind of stuff, she doesn't protect her daughter from this. She do the opposite, and like try to raise her daughters the same way, so they
Yeah.
don't get criticized by the society. Because sometimes, we cannot always blame the mothers, because they are repressed and under pressure from the society. So this way, the mother, she thinks she's protecting her daughter from society and protecting herself as well. When she raise a daughter that fits the society's criteria, then she guarantee that her daughter will not be punished.
So it looks like a lot of looks like your mom was, I guess, following the norms and saving you from even further punishment, or ostracism or even just, I guess, being undermined by your father or underestimated by your father. In terms of like your specific upbringing, not just in general what Saudi women were like, what were some incidents that you can remember, I guess, established that kind of patriarchal rule in the house? What was something that, what is commonly amongst other Saudis as well, but something that you faced, if that's okay with you?
You mean kind of things I would face inside the house?
Yeah. Yeah, more like your upbringing. What was it like at home for you?
It was very stressful, actually, to be at home in my country. It was like you're watched 24 hours, and this kind of, I don't know, our society is very like we have too much connection inside that you don't have a personal space as a member of the family inside the house. And I think a lot of people share this with me, even people from Asia, from India, from they have this also. They've told me that they have this in such very connected societies, like where we have groups. It's not individual societies that kind of encourage individuality. So yeah, I don't have a personal space in the house. That the most makes me so stressed.
Yeah.
um,
Yeah, we had Ghada on who's from Saudi Arabia and a Shia, and I think she mentioned the same thing, how your parents would just enter your room and there were no boundaries and they could do it anyway and go through
they
your
could do it
stuff.
anyway. You have no control over anything in your life, not even your look, not
Yeah.
even your haircut,
Hmm.
nothing. Like you have to, they have to agree to every detail that you want to do with your life. And this
Yeah.
is kind of difficult because you don't have you don't have your personality, then you lose your identity. You feel like you don't have any decision in your life, and it makes you also mentally not okay.
Yeah. Yeah, it is quite difficult because, well, I always shared a room with my sisters. So I didn't know the concept of space or having my own time until I moved overseas and had my own room. And for the first few months, I was like, "Oh, I'm alone. Can I sleep alone?" And then when I went back to visit my family, all I wanted was to be by myself in a room,
Hmm.
so I have my space. And that was initially such an unfamiliar concept because it wasn't normal to me. And sometimes when you live that, I guess sometimes when you live a certain lifestyle, until you are presented with another opportunity, you think that is, I guess, the right way for you to live. Um, I wanted to go a little more into, you mentioned going to universities and reading and Twitter, and how you left Islam, what you came to realize. What I guess what did you have any battles going back and forth? But I'm curious to know how, because you were raised in Saudi Arabia and Islam was all around you. Um,
Yeah.
and the only connection you had was to the outside world. And I know that some books are also banned in Saudi Arabia. So how did you find your way, I guess, outside Islam, the questioning process, and what about religion was something that made you doubt it even more?
Actually, the society inside the campus was really encouraging about like criticizing thoughts. I have a group of friends. We were at the same time leaving Islam. We left Islam at the same time because um, we were discussing this topic a lot together. We were, for example, sharing thoughts and all. And in that period we doubted this together, and we got through this together, and that what helped me a lot, that I'm not alone. Me and my best friends were at the same stage. So university is a very big transformation in my life. It's a very important period of time uh, that led to my progress. And yeah, as I shared, I did not feel alone. It was hard times because you have to face the fact that your life is all. based on this religion, and no matter what, how much you try to separate yourself, you cannot, because you are in Saudi Arabia. The religion is everywhere. It controls every aspect of your life, you know? Not even like outside Saudi Arabia, they might be religious, but in Saudi Arabia, you have to even your pictures on your ID passport that has to be with hijab, as that's how much the religion interferes in your life in Saudi Arabia. So it was very, very difficult for me to live as a faithless or a non-believer in Saudi Arabia. It was very difficult because no matter how you try to go away or just separate this religion outside your life, you cannot. That's one of the main reasons why I got out also, besides my story. It's like unbearable.
Yeah. And do you think there is a large community of atheists there? Do you think that a lot of people are underground? They won't talk about it, they won't leave, or, they just don't, I guess. I did see a documentary of people going to parties, and it's like you're not in Saudi Arabia, but you can't criticize any of the Saudi government or talk about the activists, but you can still go partying. Is that like I know there are a lot of people who do it underground, so I'm assuming that you would know
Yeah.
a little more about, I guess, the atheist community in Saudi Arabia.
Yeah, the young generation, like a very big group of them or big numbers of them are atheists because they communicated with the people outside and they are more open than to different cultures, to different thoughts. So a lot of my generation and the generation after me, they are a lot of them are atheists. So yeah, and Saudi Arabia has changed lately in a good way, but it's not the way that we want. We want to start from the basic. The base has to be changed as a human right and everything. I am supporting this kind of events, this kind of parties, concerts, and everything because it's good for the generation there. They cannot live under that conservative rules like before, but at the same time we have to fix the base. We cannot have concerts and everything and women still oppressed. Women still cannot leave house. They cannot enjoy anything of this unless we provide them with a good system, protection system. We give them the rights so they can live freely in their own country instead of like leaving it. So the changes are good, but at the same time I would like them to start on a deeper level. We need a lot of basic rights. They have to
Yeah.
change this before they.
Yeah, to me with Saudi Arabia, it sounds like put a lot of they've put a lot of restrictions. They've freed up a lot of restrictions in terms of like letting musicians in and artists and having festival. But at the same time, they're avoiding a core topic, which I feel that revolves around a lot around women than it does around anything else.
Yeah,
Because I feel like women, especially in Saudi Arabia, hold a lot of, I guess, the power in a way. Like they hold a lot of the conservative, oppressing women keeps the conservative ideas intact. So if women were allowed to go freely, then maybe when they did have a concert, they would go with men, and then that's wrong. But they would have a concert where men and women are separated. Is that how the concerts run? Are the men and women separated for the concerts and festivals?
at first they were separated, but later then they changed and it's mixed. But at the
Yeah.
same time, a lot of things happened during
Mhm.
these concerts. A lot of sexual harassment
Mhm.
uh, for women, and to the point that it was like very viral. The
Mhm.
victims spoke out about this. It's not, you have to fix step by step and you have to start in a deeper level so
Yeah.
women can even enjoy the changes. I think there are changes, but it's not it's not made for women for to make progress in society. It's only made for financial causes. It's not.
And mostly political, to like
Yeah, mostly
political
to.
and outside ties, not actually empowering women or its own citizens.
No, at all. Because if you want to empower women and protect them, you have to start at, for example, providing them with protection. A lot of violent cases we see even in Twitter. Feminists has to escalate every like case. Some of them get killed and everything. There are horrible things happening, and instead of like giving the attention to this like shallow changes, you have to look on a deeper level. Women are still suffering, and we need to provide them with a good protection system. Give them their rights, their freedom, protect them from their family so they can practice, they can even drive. You allow women to drive. At the same time, they have a very conservative families that do not allow them to drive. How they can enjoy this right?
Yeah. Um, when you said protect them from their families and then government providing protection. So, from what we know more about, and we've spoken a bit about honor. So, what we know more about honor based abuse is it always happens from um, family members. So a lot of it is mostly women, but also men. But a lot of the women who face honor-based abuse, it could be physical abuse, it could be emotional abuse. It comes usually from the men or the women, the men in the family or the women in the family. And I know that Saudi Arabia might have a high number, but it's not recorded. Do you know much about women who do go through a lot of who do go through physical abuse, and what happens and what are their options? Because if somebody at home is physically abusing you, and if you're put in a shelter, you need a male guardian. So how would one navigate? What does Saudi Arabia do for women who go through abuse?
Yeah, it was very bad now and before. It
Hmm.
was the same. Nothing has changed.
Hmm.
Women still, for example, nobody could save you from your family if your family is very abusive. Like you would go through some steps, but it's not going to do anything. It's actually more intimidating than for protection, because when you do it, they will pay at your family will know that you reported. For example, I have abusive father or abusive brother. I reported him. They would just give him a warning or sign something that you would never abuse her again and send you home with him. There's two option. There are two options: whether you go home with your abuser or whether you go to Dar Riaya, which we all know it's a very horrible place. So
What is that?
Dar Riaya, it's like a place where women abused women and victims of rape, and also women who have for example, they are sentenced to I think they have a crimes and they sentence them with a certain I don't know, they gave him a sentence or punishment. They go to inside this darai and they cannot leave this place without guardian permission. For example, you get abused, they send you to this place and you can, it's like a prison. It's like
Hmm.
you're punished because you are abused. You cannot
Hmm.
leave. There's no there's very poor hygiene inside, like they don't clean, and you have no services. You are not allowed to communicate or leave without male guardian. So you go to this place from this person who abused you. You cannot leave this place unless this person gets you out. And
Wow,
it's like a circle. You cannot like get rid
it's a
of this. You cannot
it's a
go outside this.
prison.
Yeah, it's a prison. They are like punishing the victim for being abused.
Yeah,
So
that's
either you take this option or you go with him to your house, which is also dangerous because you just reported him. He will take revenge or something.
Yeah, that sounds devastating. It's the one situation is dangerous and the other ones take both situations take away your freedom, and they're
Yeah,
in no
so
way meant to protect you at all.
there's no protection at all. Now, women who are trying to, for example, they set some rules, some new rules for women. They said, okay, if you have a job, you can rent a house and be independent from your family, but you have to prove this with for example, work contract or anything. And then you can, for example, go to a lawyer. He can do anything for you. But actually, they did this, and a lot of girls that I know in Saudi Arabia, did this, and they were reported as absent. You can do this in Saudi Arabia. For example, one of your guardians, mother or father, they can report you as an absent from home, and this is a felony. Like, this is something that you can complain about in Saudi Arabia. So whenever they find you, they get you back or they put you in prison, no matter how old are you.
So even after the male guardianship law, that applies as well. They can file.
Yeah, they said it's canceled. They abolished this, but they did not abolish anything. It's still working.
So it's just another way to trick the systems and come out the system and come out on the other side to the public
Yeah,
then.
it's only to fix their reputation.
Yeah, wow, that is horrible, especially with women who are looking for support. I guess we all know about the activists who are still in jail, even if they fought for women driving, and now women can drive and they're not going to be released because they went against the Saudi Arabian government. I guess a question to you was, do you come across Saudi women who are still Muslims and haven't lost their faith, but would like to leave or don't agree with the Saudi government? And do you usually get along with them, knowing that you're an ex-Muslim and they are still Muslims? Does that community of like being women come first, or does the religion come first?
You mean like the kind of Muslim feminists, or you mean that
Yeah,
they
not just Muslim feminists, but even like if like being feminists, yes, but even if they're not activists and they want to escape, but they're like, no, I'm still religious and you're not religious. Do you find that despite your differences in beliefs, you can still get along with them, or do you get criticized for leaving by other Saudi women?
no, actually, other Muslim women who defend women's rights, they are more open, and they are more tolerant than
Hmm.
others, because we have two kind of them. There's anti-feminist women who are completely religious, and they would fight
Yeah.
you, they would curse you and everything. This kind that I completely avoid. But there are more open-minded feminists who are still Muslims, but they don't uh, how object to my belief or anybody's belief. They are more
Mhm.
open-minded, and I have friends of them. Some of my friends are still Muslims, but they have
Yeah.
very progressive mentality.
Yeah, I find that I do like encounter a lot of Muslims who do have that progressive mentality. And, for a lot of them, I don't know how I could go through it, but they believe in making change from within. So staying in Saudi Arabia sometimes to make those changes. But usually, when they read some of my anti Islamic posts, they tend to ignore it and not discuss it, which is fine by me. I mean,
Yeah.
I would still support a woman who wants to make any justice in the system where women are not given justice despite their beliefs. Um, I thought we could go a little into your story. We've talked about how you were raised. I thought we would learn more about, your story, what led you to escape Saudi Arabia, and what have you been doing since?
Well, my story, it was like the most difficult part of my story was before I leave, like 2, 3 years before I leave,
Hmm.
because as I told you before, I accepted it a bit. Not, I tried to accept it, and I did not focus on many horrible aspects or sides of my life. But then after I left Islam, everything was so unbearable to the point I could not ignore it. It started to affect even my mental health. And yeah, I lived very difficult days. Exactly after I graduated from university, and then I was aspiring to get a job, start my career and everything. Uh, And yeah, they did not. I was working with that. It was the last semester of university, and I was working at the same time. I was very optimistic, happy, so excited to graduate and have my career. And then I worked for about 4 months, and I got after it, they made me quit my job because it was always a critical subject to them. They were always criticizing me and making me feel that they gave me a privilege and they could deprive me this privilege anytime they want, anytime I do something wrong. I lived under stress, not mentioning also the abuse, verbal abuse, physical abuse, a lot of things that I faced. I ignored and I tried to live with it, uh, and until they made me quit my job and actually literally locked me home for a whole year. That's what everything was so horrible that I could not like even accept it.
And how when was it that you were made to quit your job? What year was that?
It was 2018.
Right. Okay. So that was so you stayed home for a whole year before you reached out, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was when I reached out, it was at the same year I was locked
Okay.
because yeah, I could not take it anymore, and I tried to make so much effort so I could go out.
Yeah. Because I remember that a lot of the girls plan for 6 months or so before they leave.
As I planned for like 3 years before I leave, but I
Oh
was
wow.
always hesitating. It
Yeah.
was since 2016, this was inside my head. And every time I would do anything, I would get scared and I might get caught or anything. So I delay, or I just cancel the idea, or I just stick to something. Like if they let me do this, I would not leave. If they let me do this, I'm trying to just avoid the situation because it was very scary and horrible.
Yeah.
And yeah, after that, I lost everything. Like
What it
literally everything. There's nothing to stick to anymore.
what do you mean when you say you lost everything? Was that after the lockdown when you didn't even have a job, when they wouldn't let you work or any of your freedom?
Yeah, it was like I tried to be patient only because I had the chance to work. It was the most important thing to me that I get my independence, my financial independence, so I could help myself. And then when they deprived me this right, I could not bear it anymore because everything there's no chance of me getting out or being independent or just having a space outside the house or just leaving the house for a moment. Like I want to feel like that I have another thing to do in this life other than being a slave.
Mm-hmm. Wow.
So yeah, after that I felt that I lost everything, and whatever happens to me while I'm leaving, it doesn't matter because I lost everything.
Yeah, I mean, it can be really, really difficult, especially when, the people who are meant to love you unconditionally also subjugate you and punish you for being basically for even living a bit of your life, which you can in Saudi Arabia, to yourself. And I guess, just like yourself, financial independency was important to me. So I never questioned, like even when I removed my hijab, I was so scared to tell my family because I thought that would cut me off. And they didn't, but it came with a lot of like cut me off from financial aid because I was still in university when I took it off. But they didn't. And we still talk, which is very rare. So I guess when like I can kind of relate to the whole, we've given
Yeah.
you money or we've given you this and we can take it back, so you have to live life our way.
Yeah, the problem that I also they were not giving me money even for college or university because they thought this is privilege. If you want this privilege, that you gain it yourself. We're not given any money to support this. Like it's like we don't agree so much to this, so do it alone. We are not helping in this. Even in university, I had to find other ways to gain money, and also in Saudi Arabia, you gain money as a student in
Yeah.
university, so they give you kind of uh, salary, or they pay you every month for your books and everything. So I had to live with this and even pay my own driver because they would not do anything because they don't support this from the beginning. So this is privilege. If you want to be privileged, you help yourself. We're not doing this for you. They did not agree to a lot. Maybe also when I got my job, it was very stressful because I had my finals at the same time I'm working as a teacher, and I had to sometimes I study in my office. So it was very I was working hard to reach, although with this amount of stress in my life. I used to, for
Yeah.
example, uh, go inside my class, my face is so red from crying because I had some problem at home. So it was affecting every aspect of my life. Even if I tried to escape, I would, it's my problems comes behind me. So I try to be patient, to keep doing this, but when they deprived me completely from doing this, then I could not bear it anymore. Like I had to leave because it's unbearable.
Tell us a little more about what happened after you contacted me. Not my part, but what happened in your area. Because like we talked about you leaving, and we were gathering funds. I want to know a little more about the process because I don't think you've shared the entire thing with me in detail. Um, but also, this is a great time for me to know as well. So, I think you contacted me in January, and you left in May or April. April.
I left
April.
I left in March,
Oh wow. Okay. Wow.
beginning of March.
Yeah. Oh.
It was the International Women's Day.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
very
So
special date.
yeah. So tell us a little more about that whole process of you. Well, we found the money, and you were in touch with other organizations. So what happened from the morning
Yeah,
of before you
actually,
decided to leave?
yeah, actually, because of that times after I stopped working, so I had no income. They also
Mhm.
deprived me any income, even from they used to give me sometimes some money after college because I'm not working and I'm not student.
Yeah. Yeah.
But they stopped everything because I was smoking. They
Yeah.
didn't like it, and they thought that they would not give me any money, so I will not smoke again or anything. So I had no income, like zero, even though I in Saudi Arabia I was in very good financial status, but I was deprived from anything that I tried to get help. We collected the funds and everything. We paid like part of it. The funds paid one ticket. I paid the other ticket. I managed to pay it, and also a lot of friends who are in Germany tried to also to they reserved, or they did everything with the airlines and everything. That month was very stressful to the point that I was only busy with one aspect, which is issuing passport for my sister. It was the most stressful times. It was horrible, scary, because in that step, any mistake you would do, it will ruin everything and it will ruin my life.
Yeah.
So
And go on. No, please go. I'm enjoying this. I mean, I
I had my
am enjoying this, but
passport.
I. Mhm.
I had my passport, and I need the passport for my sister because I would not leave without her. She's younger than me, and if I leave, that she has to face a lot of troubles because of me. Um, yeah, she's under 18. It's the same also in Saudi Arabia
Yeah.
for under or above 18. I had to change passwords in this app. In Saudi Arabia, we have app to issue passports and do anything, any government work. So yeah, I had to go through this, change some password, change some phone numbers and everything. It was very and I had only limited time. I have 1 week to issue the passport before the flight. It was already booked. It was, I couldn't sleep. I couldn't
Mm.
eat or do anything. I remember also talking to you, to my friends in Germany.
Yeah.
They gave me very good support. They used to like calm me down every time
Yeah.
because it started to show on me inside the house. I started to panic,
Yeah.
and everyone inside the house noticed I am so depressed. I don't eat. I'm deprived. So they thought that I'm having another like depression thing because I used to have depression a lot in Saudi Arabia, and
Hmm.
it's for 3 years maybe. So they thought that I am doing this because they made me quit my job, and I also supported this idea. I told them yes, it's because of this, so I distract them from the
Hmm.
main thing. So yeah, they used to talk to me about this, try to calm me down that you have to accept your reality, your society. You have to be obedient to your father. He doesn't want you to work and everything. So I would say yes, yes, you are right. I just agree with everything because I don't want to create any problems, or I don't want to intimidate the situation or get exposed.
Hmm.
So yeah, before it was very stressful. I am very grateful that I have friends that took care of the tickets and everything, because at this time I could only deal with one issue, which is the passport and things from Saudi Arabia. It was stressful enough. We collected the funds. I sent them also. You sent them to my friends in Germany, and they booked the tickets. And
Hmm.
when I knew about like I will leave on Friday, it was Friday. It was I couldn't sleep anymore. I used to only sleep for 1 hour or something like that. I couldn't sleep at all. I lost a lot of weight.
Wow.
When I go back to my pictures at that time, it was horrible. I seem like I seem horrible in that pictures, and it was very difficult times. But if I go back now, I would calm down myself and I say, "You will be in a good place. You will reach another level, and you
Yeah.
will get what you want to live freely."
Yeah. And what happened on that Friday that you were going to leave?
What happened on the? A lot of things. I was, yeah, I told you that they noticed the
Hmm.
way I behave or how I look, and they thought that I have, they have this religious mindset. So, from religious perspective, they thought that I am possessed by some demons or anything.
The
So,
gin.
Muslim thing, yeah, jinn. So, I thought, yeah, maybe. I feel it. I had to lie because I want them to be distracted from the
Yeah.
main thing. So they told me that they will take me to Sheikh or something, to he would read some Quran verses and I would be okay. And
Yeah.
I said to my mom, yeah, yeah, it's a good idea. I need this.
Yeah.
They took me to this place, and I told my sister to pack the bags and do everything because we're
Mhm.
leaving at the same day.
Wow.
Yeah, actually, we were leaving Friday, 1 a.m.,
Hmm.
and this was Thursday, 10 a.m.,
Okay.
10 p.m. And
Wow.
then, yeah, it was so, we did not pack anything. We were not ready. So, because, in the house, it's so, we don't have a space and anybody
Hmm.
would notice.
Yeah.
It was good that it's weekend. I got out with my family, and my sister was alone at home, and she did all the packing. I was there pretending to be possessed by some jinn. I did not do anything actually. He was reading Quran and I was like looking like that. And
Yeah.
he expected some reaction or some that I'm gonna go crazy or do some things. And I was so calm because I did not believe this thing, so I did not feel anything. Some people believe this really inside themselves, so they start to react to their beliefs, and it's something very silly to me that I have to look at him all the day reading this. And then he looked at my mother. He told her, no, she doesn't have anything. She might be a little bit depressed.
Hmm.
Then
Wow.
she told him, as a man of religion, that you should advise her. She wants to work. She doesn't listen to her father. And he was advising me that it's not so good for women to work and blah, 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 all of this stupid things. And that one of his cousins, she's a doctor, but it's not anything different and it's not something special. And she should not do that. And I was just trying to be calm, to not negotiate or object to this any kind of bullshit they're
Hmm.
saying. Yeah, my sister, she was ready, and at the same time we told my family that we're going to my grandmother's house, which
Hmm.
is the only place we are allowed to go without company or anything, because
Hmm.
it's my grandmother's house.
And
They
did you have a
drove us.
driver? Oh, okay, they drove you there.
Yeah, my brother drove us, and we did not enter the house. We stayed outside next to the gate until he left,
Yeah.
and we pretended to be inside that night. We said that we're gonna spend the night there, and we were heading to airport after he left.
Okay, so you went to the airport after he left.
Yeah,
And
after he left immediately.
the male guardianship law was still there through the app. So how did you get past it?
I did it 2 days or 3 days before we go outside,
And
and
your dad didn't notice?
he did not notice. Actually, they send SMS that you approved, or your sister or your mother or your daughter to travel. You give her this permission. But I already changed the number.
Okay.
I stole the password and I changed the number. That's this message will go to the maid's phone because
Hmm.
it was registered by my father's name. Also, the
Okay.
maid's SIM card.
Right. Wow, that's a smart move.
Yeah, and she doesn't understand. She doesn't read Arabic, so
Hmm.
she didn't know what is this SMS. She just ignored it, and we left.
Wow. Okay. Wow, that was amazing. And I guess a lot of people would like to know, where are you now, if you don't mind sharing.
I think I mentioned it in the beginning.
Germany.
It's I am in Germany,
Yeah.
and yeah,
Did you take a flight
it's
directly to Germany then?
it was supposed to land in Tunisia, the flight, but I took Germany as a transit,
Mm-hmm.
Frankfurt,
Hmm.
and yeah, as soon as I arrived, I applied for asylum.
Was that in the airport when you were there?
Yeah, Frankfurt Airport.
Yeah, well, that is awesome. And you said your sister was not 18 yet. Did you?
Yeah, did I face difficulties, you
Yeah, I was
mean?
gonna say, because it's in Germany, there would be some kind of legal guardianship or consequences, or, some authorization that she might need from her guardian. Or
Yeah, but not for refugees, it's a bit different. And
hmm.
especially with my case, because the main reason why I fled Saudi Arabia is my family.
Hmm.
So they would take this seriously, that the
Hmm.
guardianship thing. But when the guardians are the abusers, this is nothing.
Yeah.
Like they cannot get you.
Hmm. Hmm.
So yeah, my sister, she was very young when we arrived. There was something at the court, me and my family, like a battle in the court for guardianship,
Hmm.
for a long time, like for 5 months after I arrived Germany. We had to go through court and everything, but the good thing that my sister, she was getting 18 after like few months, so I did not.
Yeah, bother too much.
Yeah.
And did your family try following you to Germany, or did they threaten to come and get you?
Yeah, actually they followed me, but it's not like I found them. I found one of them, one of my family members, not the close family members, but he was my
Mhm,
uncle,
mhm,
uh, my aunt's husband. So he followed me to because he have already visa and everything. And I actually, when I arrived Germany, they are all my family members are banned from entering Germany unless they go through another country, European country. So he followed me and he tried to convince me back. He
mhm.
did not he did not threaten or anything because in Germany he cannot basically he
Mhm.
cannot do anything.
Yeah.
So he tried like to convince me to go back, but I refused.
And did he come from Saudi Arabia to find you, or was he living in
Yeah, and
Germany?
no, he came from Saudi Arabia, and it was so weird that he found out where I was. So it was like very weird that I found out that my phone was hacked.
Oh, wow. I
Yeah, my
mean,
phone was hacked.
you had obviously already changed numbers because you were in Germany, so your phone was definitely hacked.
Yeah, my iCloud was hacked. I found out that later, and they found me, I think, uh, because of that. I don't know what they did, but I had to change my phone
Yeah.
and get rid of the old one.
Wow, that is so brave. It sounds like Mission Impossible. And I'm so glad you and your sister have made it alive. I guess it's been a while since you've been settled in Germany. What was the process? Where are you at now? What does it feel like being on the outside, and what are your hopes for the future?
I feel like my whole life, even now, when I'm speaking to you about these things that happened in the past, it doesn't make sense to me anymore. Like after this period of time, I adjusted to this atmospheres and freedom and being free. I found out really who I am. I
Hmm.
found out a lot about myself. I feel like I am myself now. Like I
Yeah.
found my identity. Like I found more about myself. And whenever I remember the past, it's so gloomy and it doesn't make sense to me anymore. I used to understand it more when I was in Saudi Arabia. Now I cannot even process this kind of things. And yeah, I am so happy. I'm in this stage of my life. I am so happy. I'm so optimistic. I'm so excited to do new things. Uh,
Do you feel like
to
now is when you're living your life, that you've just been born in a way?
Yeah, exactly. Like this, what was in there, it was not life at all. I felt like it's completely different dimension.
Yeah.
Whenever Yeah, I cannot even understand it. And now I feel like I have more plans and I'm so excited. I'm so healthy, mentally healthy, physically healthy. I can take care of myself, my career, my sister, and everything um,
That's
in whole another level.
Yeah, that's awesome. So when you first moved to Germany and coming from Saudi Arabia, obviously alone with your sister, what were some cultural clashes that you found, or what was things that you thought that is normal in Germany that you did not know about before?
It was like a cultural shock whenever when I arrived. It's like it's I was thinking, does they live in the same planet we live in? Because it's so different. It's the first time I am on my own, and I am
Yeah,
outside in this world. So I felt it was also difficult, to be
yeah,
honest. It was also difficult to be on your own for the first time. I used to think that this is so easy, but when you do it in reality, it's not that easy to learn the smallest thing, how to do the smallest thing, to learn how even to drive a bicycle or to swim. It's like you've been born again. Uh, you have an experience of 10 years old child in this life. not to mention other aspects, but I mean, as a for driving bicycles, for crossing the roads, as Saudi Arabia in Saudi Arabia, I didn't have to do all of that.
Wow, I don't know how to ride a bicycle, so
Yeah.
well, my sisters do. All my sisters do, but I didn't because I was born 6 years later, and
Uh-huh.
6 years
No
later, and
offense.
there was nobody after it. So I was a very quiet child. So I'd come home, all I wanted to do was my homework. So I was never
Yeah.
as active as everybody else. And my parents, my dad was like, "Nope, she's gonna get hurt. She's too young." But my older
Yeah.
siblings, because they were around the same age, all three of them, they would go out and play. So, they had each other to take care of, and they're like, no, she's young. She's not going to go out. I'm like, okay. Um,
No, it's not like in a very negative way, but it's I had the chance to do things that most
no,
people take for granted, you know?
yeah, yeah,
Whenever I tell anyone that when I first came, I tell them, yeah, I am 23 years old, but I cannot swim. And they feel like
yeah,
they cannot understand this
yeah.
unless you told them about your background and where did you live.
Yeah, just like you, I went to swimming classes in Tanzania, but my parents, so it was religious to like have women and men separate in like swimming pools and whatnot, but they were just very protective and they were like, be on the safe side versus, go out
Mm-hmm.
there and we'll protect, in that it'll be fine. So I self-taught myself swimming. I literally just went in the pool and I'm like, I'm going to learn how to swim,
Mm-hmm.
and then I watch YouTube videos, and I know it's stupid, but that's how I learned. So I
I
can
did
totally
it.
get the
I
whole.
did it too.
I learned how to drive watching YouTube videos. My first driving lesson, my first driving, no, not lesson, sorry, my first driving test was in Australia about 3 years ago. Because while I had a Tanzanian full license that I got. Um, no, through legal ways, but if you pay extra, you don't have to take the driving classes, and that's bribery.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, and this was ages ago. This is like 10 years ago that I got it. 12 years ago. And I learned how to drive a manual car on YouTube. I had a
Mm-hmm.
friend teaching me, and then I didn't see him for a while. And I was like, okay, well, I have this car, and it's a manual car, and usually it goes in reverse when you're uphill. And I'm like, what do I do now? How does this work? And I was so scared. I would YouTube video. I'm like, how do you go up the ramp? How do you parallel park? How do you
It's
park
so funny.
using your backside mirror? It was just like, it's like YouTube saved my life in a lot of these things.
Yeah, I also rely on YouTube. When I was taking these swimming classes, it was very embarrassing for me because my colleagues are children. So, and I
Yeah,
had to go with them like this, learn very basic things, and but I did not at the beginning. I said, okay, it's a little bit embarrassing doing this, but I let myself be comfortable, and I just felt took it in a funny way, you know. I did not. I accepted it, and that's
yeah,
why I learned faster than my sister. She was so shy to go inside the pool with children.
yeah,
She said, "I'm not going with 3 years old children to learn swimming." So I learned faster.
yeah. And how old is your sister now? She's about 19.
She's 18.
Yeah, she turns 19 soon. I remember that.
She will turn 19 soon.
Yeah, that's awesome. Oh my God, there are a lot of parallels, even if you lived in Saudi and I lived in Tanzania. Obviously our lives were completely different, but there were a lot of things where we do have a lot of parallels in terms of space and boundaries and how our families react to
Yeah.
women's freedom. I keep saying this because a lot of people won't believe me. Like, um, my brother never really cleaned dishes in the house until he got married, and he did it for his wife. And now he's a
Hmm.
lot better. But like in terms of freedom, I got to study, and I went overseas. I got to study. I had more rights over him in that aspect, only because he wasn't interested. And because he was the
Yeah.
only son, he was burdened with taking care of the whole family, Whereas because I'm the
Mm-hmm.
middle child, I've just gone away and I'm like, okay, I'm gonna live my life. So I guess in that way um we had a healthy balance. And my dad used to say that what a man can do, a woman can do better. However, there were things like hijab, and there were things like, but you're a woman, you shouldn't talk like that, or you shouldn't dress
Mm-hmm.
like that, or that men are looking at you, or sit properly. So there were things were that
In
were
common.
quite, yeah. I think it was a lot
Yeah,
of the environment
there
as
are a
well.
lot. Yeah, there are a lot of actually some Indian friends
Hmm.
uh, of mine, and they have some similarities with me, with my life. We share a lot. Like it's not only about religion. Some of them are not even Muslims, but we have this kind of conservative societies that have sometimes the same traditions for also marriage for
Hmm.
so I always say that it's not only religion, it's combination of culture and religion. Both
They go hand
both
in
of
hand.
them, yeah, both of them very repressive for
Yeah.
women, and yeah, it's combination of both. That's why it's too hard in Saudi Arabia because
Yeah.
it's not only cultural thing or only religious thing.
Yeah, I guess in a way that Germany is mostly an atheist country, especially the West. And I feel like in countries that are less conservative, the US not being one of them, but in countries that are less conservative, I find changes when it comes to empowering women or creating social changes in areas, the West like I guess adapt quickly or are likely to make change through democracy as compared to I guess the Indian culture or the Arab culture,
Yeah,
or even in my case African culture that is predominantly conservative.
yeah, of course, and I also, in my last article, I mentioned that women all around the world, even in free societies and free countries, still face difficulties, but it's on a different level.
Yeah.
So it would be so much easier than living in Middle East, but women will still face a lot of difficulties, a lot of we are still in patriarchal society, even in free countries.
Yeah.
Germany is a very progressive country. It's a very great place to live in as a woman.
Hmm.
Um, but at the same time, I don't face anything, but I am subjected as any woman in this world to any kind of difficulties. But the difference here that you have law to protect you. Whenever
Hmm.
you report, you
Hmm.
they take you seriously. They take your case seriously. They protect you. This is that we're talking about, the progress we're talking about. So kind of any kind of repression, any kind of assaults, harassment, you would face from the society, not from the government. The government would fully support you. In Germany, Germany's government is very well known in this field, that women's right, women's protection. Here, you find very good response if you report an assault inside the house. They would respond to you, they would protect you, change your address and take you to a whole nother place. There is houses for women, only
Hmm.
for women who've been abused or threatened. So they basically hide them in these shelters or these houses and provide them everything, the support. They have a full team that will support you. They will hide your address so your abuser doesn't find you. So it's a very like, this is what I wish to have in Saudi Arabia. If I had that, I would never leave my country. I would have better chances in my country to live, and I didn't have to go through all of this process, asylum process or anything, because it's always like, this is very great country, but at the same time, I would prefer to be free in my own
Hmm.
culture and be
Yeah.
respected as a woman and make
Yeah.
the change from Saudi Arabia.
Yeah, I was just about to ask, what about the Arab culture do you miss?
The Arab culture, I miss the Eid actually.
Yeah.
it's the only thing that really I love, like in that culture. It's this atmosphere, it's the Arabic coffee. We have also this kind of I don't know if you know what we call it, bakhur.
Is it
When
the
you put,
sweet?
yeah, it's like for the smell. It's very good.
Oh yeah.
And
I have that. It's
yeah,
we call it oud. So you burn it in an incense
eh,
thing.
yeah, it's oud and also bakhur. There are two kinds of it,
Oh,
and this is what I miss the most. And I found some stuff in Germany, so I
yeah,
tried to make my own culture inside my apartment. Like I celebrate Eid with friends,
nice.
and yeah. So our culture, we have a lot of things, negative things, but at the same time, I'm trying to stick only to positive things that would
Yeah.
bring me joy. And
Yeah, that's a good way of looking at it. I guess, a lot of times, like you said, we take things for granted, like swimming and some really mundane, like a lot of activities that is normal for people, but for
yeah.
me, it's a privilege. So I guess in my case, having electricity for 2 whole weeks was a privilege because I would have cut out, like every week you'd have a cutout of at least once or every 2 weeks. And
Hmm.
now I'm like, oh, electricity never goes away here, like never. And I'm like, oh, okay, I'm in
Hmm.
a Western world now, or in a more not progressive, but like a more developed country.
Yeah.
And I guess somebody had asked a question that I really liked about your activity. It was like, what is that one act? No, here, there you go.
Okay. What is the most drastic change that you have gone through personally, emotionally since moving to Germany? The change you mean as a person that I notice about myself?
Yeah,
Uh, I am more, uh, I don't know how, I am more social, more open. I would express myself freely than before. I used to be so nervous. Now I am, how can I say it? Now I have
confident.
better, excuse me, I did
Did you
not
say
hear you.
confidence?
More confident. Before, I used to, for example, hesitate a lot making decisions and all. Now, since I made like the most important decision and the biggest decision in my life, I feel like I fear nothing. I
Yeah,
am fearless.
that's
That's the
awesome.
most thing, yeah, that's the most thing I noticed about myself, that I do not fear anything like before, because I was subjected to very horrible things if I get caught, and this is like very horrible situation that I lived, and after that I feel nothing bad can happen more than this that I went through, you know? So it's like I lost fear at all from anything. I am more, I have more courage to do anything, or to make adventures on a different scales, my career, my life, and everything.
Yeah, you're truly brave. I've always looked up to you. I remember when I think a few months after Khulud had left, I was like, I want to be you when I grow up. I was like, you're so strong. I mean, starting over can always be so hard. And, you had to do it the first time without any support, without any financial assistance from your family or emotional support, which is really hard. A lot of ex-Muslims are ostracized, and I had to ask you a question. Do you talk to your family at all?
Sometimes they reach me, but it's it's not like I talk to them, but they would always, when they reach me, try to get me back, and I do not
Yeah.
respond.
Yeah.
It's the same. It's the same as always, trying to emotional blackmail you,
Man.
or and try to play mind games, and I do not respond. I think she left.
Sorry, I died for a second. I have no idea what happened, but I died for a second. Yeah, emotional abuse and mind games and make you feel guilty about your choices.
Yeah, exactly. And this feeling is the most complex feeling you could ever process, like
Yeah,
the guilt. It's very heavy, and it's
yeah. And I guess a lot of times as ex-Muslims, and I've noticed this as well, that not anymore because, when I first came out, and if anything bad would happen, or like let's say if I hurt myself or if I missed the bus or if I didn't get a job or anything, and I'm like, oh, is this because I left Islam? Is this because I didn't listen to my parents? Is this like karma? Is life just
mhm.
like, and there's a lot of guilt associated, and you start gaslighting yourself. You're like, no, it's your fault, or you start blaming yourself. Victim blaming is at the best.
Yeah, and
And
maybe
it
this
is,
is because my mom just cursed me or anything, like because she's not happy, satisfied with what I'm doing, so I'm getting this karma. Sometimes
yeah,
although we don't
yeah.
believe in this kind of stuff, but we still think the same way as before we brought up.
It's exactly. It's really hard. I was just talking to somebody about this on Twitter, unlearning things that we've learned. It's
Mm-hmm.
really hard for a lot of us to, I guess, this our years for you and I, it's almost 20 years of things that we have to unlearn, especially
Mm-hmm.
like things that that you learned as a kid, which is like respect your parents, always give in to their demands, not respect your parents and live your life. Yeah, it is
Mm-hmm.
it is quite hard to unlearn all of this. I do have a few questions for you
Okay.
from the panel, so I'm just going to put them up. um this one.
Is it possible for women to demand too much as an excuse not to marry man she doesn't have the feeling for? I mean, it's rare, but it happens. But m- mostly it's not this way. Mostly women try to find another excuses because if you demand more, they are in a very good financial status and they could actually provide this amount that she asks for. So women there use different ways. For me, it was always that. I don't, it was my family that refused most of them because
Mhm.
in my family it's about this tribal things that he doesn't come from the same family or the same class
Yeah,
that we want. So this was always, but I was always threatened if anyone that fill their criterias
yeah,
will come, I will have to accept. And actually, they would not force me, but they would pressure me so much to the point I could say yes. They could may make my life hell. So
yeah.
yeah, but
So did
yeah, not all women do this.
were you pressured to get married to anyone or expected to?
Yeah, actually, my sister before I leave, she was they were planning for a marriage. She
Hmm.
was 17. They were planning for her to marry my cousin, who's
Wow.
always young, but he was also young. But
Oh,
am I still live?
yeah, yeah, yeah. You're here. Yeah. Sorry. So your cousin who was,
Okay.
yeah, was also young, and then I lost you there.
He was also young, and yeah, they wanted my sister to marry this, and was also one of the reasons why we left so fast because uh, they told her that she cannot continue to university and she will just finish the high
Mm.
school and get married because university has already ruined my thinking. Then my sister would follow my steps if she go to university.
It's funny. My younger sister was told the same thing. They're like, well, she went to university and now she's an atheist and she doesn't wear hijab. Before I came out to them as an atheist, they're like, well, see what she did. She went to university and she learned, and
Uh-huh.
now she doesn't wear hijab. So, you're just going to end up spoiling our name. And I think it was, and initially it was also my brother who was against me studying as well. He's like, why do you want to do your master's? Why do you need to study? You're going to come back to Tanzania and work with the family business anyway. And I was like, watch me.
Mm-hmm.
And I basically had to, in a way, fight for my path, but at the same time,
Yeah.
because I always maintained, I guess, I always maintained good grades. They're like,
Mm-hmm.
oh, okay, she's studying, she's not just messing around. And then when I got a job, it just became easier, and they knew I was never going to come back. And even now, they sometimes ask to visit, or when I complain about like London being too crowded or small houses, they're like, well, you can always come back home, and you have mates
Mm-hmm.
here and everything. And I'm like, nope, I'll do my own laundry and cooking, but I'm not coming back.
Yeah, it's actually very hard to like adjust to this kind of societies and then go back. You feel like you're going 50 years behind.
Yeah, I still find it odd that, I haven't been back home in 2, 3 years. But even when I was like not picking up my own plate, or like, they hand wash the clothes in Tanzania. I think they do it. Yeah, I think they hand wash the clothes. And I'm like, uh, I would rather wash my own underwear. I don't want somebody else to touch my underwear, or like, unless if it's washing machine. But at the same time, yeah, no, it is very, very strange indeed, like to go back. Um,
In Saudi, it's on a different level. For example, we have technology, we have everything, but
mhm.
if you look at the society, it's like it doesn't fit.
Yeah. I
It's
mean,
like we
I
have
was just gonna say,
some sort of
sorry, you go, you go.
continue. For example, if we go, for example, in Saudi Arabia, we would do anything with apps and with technology, but here in Germany, and it's very like it's not a third world country, so we would do everything with papers. So in
Yeah,
we have progress in Saudi Arabia, but in a whole different level, like
yeah,
it's not even comparable. The technology there is so much better, but here the human rights and the quality of life for human is on a different scale.
yeah. I guess Saudi Arabia, in a way, technology-wise, or even other infrastructure-wise, is quite developed and progressive, but obviously not keeping human rights first. And it's always,
Yeah,
I think, a lot of these places are mostly political showing off, because aren't they planning
yeah,
to build one of the biggest buildings to compete with Dubai?
yeah. They would. They are now following the steps of UAE, Dubai. Like we're gonna improve. So people would come and invest the money in our country. So
Yeah,
it's all financial for their
yeah,
benefit, but human rights, basic rights for human quality of life, nothing changed.
yeah. That's sad. I'm going to. So there are questions and some comments. I thought you might enjoy reading them. Um, when we were talking about bicycles.
I used to teach refugee women to rise
Yeah,
bicycles.
yeah, that was a typo. Um,
Yeah.
Somebody asked, you got your space to be yourself in Germany. What was your best activity until now in Germany?
As a daily activity or like as a career or a job.
I guess all. Let's hear it all.
I like as a daily activity, I like to swim a lot. I'm obsessed. And
You
I
swim
race
every day?
in the summer, yeah.
Oh,
Sometimes I
wow.
skip one day, but I go swim. It's like I always wished to swim, and I always like envy my brothers before because they can swim, and I could only look at them swimming and enjoying. So when I came to Germany, I used to swim in the summer. I used to swim every day, and for like a job, I like to write a lot about like subjects about my life, human rights, women's rights specifically.
I'm not crying. It's my contacts. There's something stuck. So just give me a minute while I put the other question on for you.
Okay.
Um, Um, so somebody wrote this, and I thought it was very relevant to all of us, especially as ex-Muslim women.
Having lived in Saudi Arabia, I had to learn riding, bike, swimming, going to the gym for the first time as an adult. Yeah, it's exactly what I've been through, like doing anything on my own. Even riding like public. Can you remind me? Even riding a
Public transport.
bus, public transport, exactly. Riding a bus, going on a train, it was also very difficult. Also, the language barrier made me so nervous while I'm doing all of that. So it was hard for me to go even on a bus or to know these details and do this all stuff.
Yeah,
I could, yeah, being outside in the road alone, that would get me so anxious.
yeah. I mean, same with me. I'd never taken public transport in Tanzania only because their facilities weren't good. Um,
Mhm.
and it was in Malaysia when I'd first taken it. I think this was again in terms of our bike.
I took my group of students from Islamic school to a place nearby where you can rent bikes for free. That was hilarious and very educational.
Yeah,
I used to fall a lot and get so much injuries. As
so
I myself as a male ex-Muslim had to learn swimming at 25. Interesting.
yeah, I mean, my brother and you. I always compare myself to like compare everybody else to like my family in terms of like what our stories were. So I think one of my brother and my sister knew how to swim. I just didn't, and the rest didn't because my parents were overprotective.
Mhm.
Like, uh, I do Latin dancing. I've done salsa and bachata and modern. I think it's modern jive. Do you dance? Have you tried any of the dancing classes? I think you might like them.
No, I'm actually more interested in sports like football. I joined the football
Yeah,
club.
nice,
And yeah, because I always like to play football, even in Saudi Arabia, because I have six brothers who always
nice.
play with me. So
Do you miss those aspects, your siblings and just having a family?
I used to do it as a child. Having a family, I will always miss this, but what I had before, it's not like normal situation, normal
Yeah,
family. So
that
if
makes
it
sense.
was family, like a real family, I would miss it more, or I would
Yeah.
miss it like at all.
Yeah. Actually, with salsa, I remembered when I was first learning salsa and swing, that was the first time that um, I guess that was the first time that I had removed my hijab.
Oh, so you went there with your hijab. It was before Australia or after?
This was in Malaysia.
Uh-huh.
So this was in Malaysia when so I always wanted to remove my hijab when I was like 14,
Mm-hmm.
but my mom said that my dad would never allow it and that I would it would be up to my husband to allow me
Mm-hmm.
because I would be his property after I got married. And I was like, oh, why? And I was like, why is that, you know, why is that a thing? Like why does it have to be my husband? Um, and then when I went to Malaysia, and that was the first time I saw a woman who hadn't worn a hijab and was a Muslim. I didn't know that
Mm-hmm.
you could not wear a hijab.
And still be Muslim.
Yeah, I mean, I also left when I was 16, so it was basically around the time where people would go online and say. So I used to see actors and actresses who were Muslims and were in Bollywood. And I'm like, but they're not really Muslims. I'm like,
Uh-huh.
they're not real Muslims. You know, they're
Real,
so
yeah.
yeah, because they don't
Same.
wear hijab. I was like, you can't not wear hijab. And then I realized, okay, maybe you can sin and not wear hijab and still, be Muslim,
Be a
just like
Muslim.
somebody else would be sinning as well. Um, so I am just going to
And how did you feel when you first removed
so
it? It was very, for me, it was a very special moment when I did that first in Saudi
tell
Arabia.
us
I
more
did it.
about it. I
We
want to
used to
go
go
on.
outside from university. Sometimes we sneak outside the university campus, and we go for a restaurant or anything as a group of friends. And in that moments, with these moments were the happiest moments in my life in Saudi Arabia, because I had this life outside the boundaries. I do not stick to this social norms. I could, for example, remove my hijab and just enjoy freely with my friends. So we used to do it. And the first time I was not with hijab, I was also with niqab. So it was very hard for me to remove that of my
Yeah.
face, because it was the first time. I even hesitated. We were in a restaurant. My friends removed all their niqabs, and I was hesitating, very scared, and I could not understand. Now I cannot understand why I was
Yeah.
scared, because and yeah, and then I did not do it. The second time we went also to another place, and I had the courage and I just removed it, and it felt so good. This is the first time in my life in a public place without niqab, so I feel like my face is naked.
Yeah.
So yeah, and I got used to it step by step. I also removed also my hijab, and where I was walking in Jeddah, sometimes some places without um, hijab, and it was the best moments of my life in Saudi Arabia. It was very special because I had this freedom. I feel the air in my face and my hair, and I feel the sun. I was so suffocated inside all of these things.
Yeah, wow. Yeah. For me, my first time was I guess because I was dancing, I knew I was doing something, but there was like I was in a class, it wasn't outside. So like it just felt weird. It definitely didn't feel like I was like sometimes I like, later on when I permanently removed it, it felt like I was an object. But at that point it was just like, oh, something's not on my neck, something's not like trying to cover my neck or not strangle me, but it's not like suffocating me.
Mm-hmm.
And then and my hair was tied, so it was not let down or anything, and I was just busy dancing, and I was like, it just felt like I wanted to hug myself because it just
Mm-hmm.
there's that cold chilly, like it's a cold shivering feeling when I don't know it was just weird. I just wanted to hug myself, and I'm like, am I
Mm-hmm.
okay? Is everything okay? This is a new experience. But it definitely did feel quite freeing.
Mm-hmm.
It felt odd because I couldn't the first two classes I danced with my hijab, and then I wore a dress, which I actually still have. This was 12 years ago, and I'm pretty sure it still fits. So
Nice.
I still have that dress, and I wore long sleeves. I wore because the dress had a V-neck and it was short sleeves. So I
Mm-hmm.
used to wear a top inside, and then wear a dress, and then stockings, and then hijab on top. So I just took off my hijab, and then
Was
I
that
was dancing.
frustrating? Because it also was frustrating to me to ruin all these dresses trying to cover up my skin.
Yeah, I mean, it was a lot, like even my prom dresses that I had from college and university, like prom and ball, I had to wear long sleeves. So you would go to a store, you would just focus on the dress, right? And then you buy a
Yeah,
dress, and I'm like, oh, now I have to buy something matching to go inside, and I would usually go for black or white and not something colorful,
it was
because
very stressful to me, because I
yeah,
had to, like, even the weddings, when I want to like buy something, some dress for a wedding, I had to focus, and it's too hard to follow the fashion trends at the same time try to cover all of your skin. So it
yeah.
was mission impossible to find something matches this dress to wear.
Yeah, no, it is. I feel like a lot of people who say I choose to wear a hijab, and I'm like, have you been without it? Have you spent 5 minutes without it, just in a room, whether it's a man or a woman? It doesn't matter. Like, have you
Mm-hmm.
just been outside and felt it and then tell me that you choose to go back to this? I mean,
Yeah, exactly.
if hijab wasn't mandatory, I would wear it on occasions, just like a head thing, or like sometimes, like
Yeah.
just mix it up. So it's not the problem about covering your head or your hair, or your neck every day. It was mostly like having an absolute choice to do it, because I don't think anybody wants to do it every day. Sometimes people just do it because it's part of a habit, because it's a routine, because that's what they've always known. I guess, like in our case as well.
Yeah, and also not also they might feel threatened without this hijab from the society. For example, I had a friend. She told me that her family told her that you're free to wear hijab or just remove it, and she chose that. She told me that she chose to wear it. But at the same time, after so many conversation, I found out that her brother opposed this decision. So it's not completely she's free to do this. She would also find people who would reject this or oppose this decision, and that's why she's scared to just remove hijab. So it's not also women who will remove it, or it's so hard to appear in society without hijab after you was with hijab. They will bully you even if it's your family is okay with it. A lot of
Yeah,
these
they will.
incidents happened in Egypt, in Saudi Arabia. They would say you're a hypocrite, you didn't wear it because you believe in it, and blah blah blah. So also they have this inner fear of facing the society and telling the society, confronting them, telling them that you removed hijab.
Yeah, there's a lot of bullying, because I think somebody has written down in the comments, one of the YouTube influencers that I used to follow as a Muslim, and even after I stopped wearing the hijab, was Amina. I don't know if you know her. She's from the UK, and she came out saying that she doesn't wear the hijab in her personal life, and she built a business around selling hijab. And I don't think there's anything wrong with it, because when she started it, she was wearing hijab and she truly believed in it. And now she's like,
Mm-hmm.
it doesn't match with who I am, but if you want to unfollow me, unfollow me. But you see all the abuse she gets, especially being
Yeah.
an influencer. She's like, you're going to influence the younger women to not wear hijab, and she was just getting a lot of shit for it, which is really stupid, because I think, like, a lot of times when they say hijab is a choice, removing it should also be a choice as well. And there's so
Yeah.
much bullying and pressure from the community, almost as though even the women, so a lot of the abuses were from women as well. Even the
Yeah.
women were about, oh, what, now you're just going to be an object? And they're like, how could you do this? You're just a liar and a fake. Instead of actually understanding that this is a difficult decision for all of us and for her as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so as I told you, it's like the hard part is confronting the society and telling them that you removed
Yeah.
your hijab or you took off your hijab. It's actually, I am not against any women, even the women who wear hijab, because I also see them as a victims.
Yeah.
They did this under pressure, and I also hate it so much when people start to harass or just comment on their hijab and on in street. I saw that here in Germany. Some people would, for example, comment on them on the streets or anything, or they make sometimes their life more difficult.
Yeah.
It's also hard for them sometimes to get a job, which is
Yeah.
I completely oppose. Society shouldn't treat them this way. They are
Right.
victims. They cannot be treated. They cannot be oppressed from both sides. We have to take
Exactly.
their side. We have to support them,
Yeah.
empower them, and tell them always that they have another choice to remove it. But this society is oppressing them and making them do this or wear hijab, and this society is also blaming them for this decision. They don't know what to
Exactly.
do.
Yeah, and the thing is that, I like, personally, I am against hijab, but I am all for women who want to wear it. I have no problem with, like, you want, my sisters wear it. So I'm like, You want to wear it, you wear it. I'm not going to tell
Yeah,
anybody they shouldn't be wearing it. You don't want to shake hands, don't shake hands with somebody. I think it's when you enforce it on other people to wear it or force other people to wear it. And like to me, you don't have to justify your reasons for wearing it. I get it. Like we had the same reasons when I was wearing it because in the end, we're all a result of our experiences and what we've been brought up with. And a lot of
yeah,
these women had never gotten a choice. And, you know, because if you believe in Islam, then, like I said, there is no choice. You are required and mandated
yeah.
to wear it.
You also you are subjected to punishment by either God or your society, because God tell you that you would go to hell if you remove this or you take
Yeah.
off hijab. And also, we are against the idea of promoting this as a symbol of empowerment.
Hmm.
This is
Hmm.
a tool of oppression. It's not symbol of empowerment. Hijab is not does not empower women. Hijab is a problem. It's a symbol of repressing women. We should not promote it this way. That's the only thing we oppose or object to. But we do not hate women who chose to wear
Exactly.
it.
Yeah.
We do not fight them. We do not limit their freedom. We want them to be just comfortable to remove it or to take it off without punishment, without bullying, without.
Exactly.
So, yeah.
I don't know why you don't do many speaking events. I think you should totally do so speaking events. I think there's so much you have to say. And I think somebody said it really nicely that you are articulate and you describe a woman's situation living in Saudi Arabia with so much passion. And some of them said, obviously, it gives them the chills in not an uncomfortable way, but just identifying the truth. And I really think that, well, one, you should come on more. I have spoken about Gada. She's from Saudi Arabia, and you two should do something in Arabic. Um,
I'm trying to speak out as much as I could.
yeah.
I'm writing about this stuff all the time in my articles, and
Mm.
actually analyzing also the society, also the women's perspective, the women's personalities in Saudi Arabia. So I'm trying my best in any if I could more get more chances, I would appear more and speak out more.
Yeah,
Uh,
somebody here posted about focusing on your career and job, and I think that kind of answers the question as you just said. That do you want to explain what you do?
well, now I am first learning German, so
Yeah.
I could like do my master's in. I'm planning for masters in media or journalism. I'm also writing a column in Welt am Sonntag. It's a popular newspaper in
Hmm.
Germany,
Hmm.
and it focuses on like this kind of stuff, political and human rights.
Yeah.
And yeah, my main focus is journalism. I'm trying to join the field. I have a bachelor degree in Saudi Arabia, and I want to do my master's in media and journalism
That's awesome.
specifically.
That's awesome. I feel like, you're Um, my therapist told me this that I'm an activist, and one way of being an activist is on me healing from my religious trauma. That I want to, I guess, voice my views, and also, in I guess what I'm trying to do is also help other women. I hope I'm helpful, but at the same time, it's a lot of like because I had been through that, I don't want somebody else to go through it. The abuse that I got
Mhm.
and I still get as an activist, I don't want other women to go through it. And that's why I feel like it is so necessary to have these conversations. And I feel like you're also, I guess, your biggest driver to do this is to create that change. Like, you don't only want to tell people you're being that change, you're owning your life that you were never given the opportunity to in Saudi Arabia. And that is so amazingly brave of you. A lot of people would not do half of the things that you have done right now, which is amazing. So I hope you know that. And I've always been so proud of you. I feel like an older sister or a young, just like part of families when I hear all these stories and I'm like, oh my God, this is so nice. um, Someone asked this, what advice would you give about getting past your apprehension to try new things. Would you like to answer that? And then I'll go next.
Uh, Let me read it again. What advice would you give about getting past? It's like if I would advise anyone who did not do these things before, I would advise that they don't feel shy about it. They don't
Yeah.
feel like uh, they don't limit themselves. Like my sister, I always push my sister and tell my sister that it's okay, you can do this, even we do it so late.
Hmm.
We have difficult circumstances before, and this is not our fault. Now do it and enjoy it. You have your future
Yeah.
in front of you, and you have to move on.
Yeah.
So do not feel shy. Practice whatever you want. I try to do many activities, like a lot of swimming, playing billiardo or anything. For the first time, it was always embarrassing, and I felt like so. But it's okay. Do not limit yourself. Live the moment. Live the embarrassment, and get over it.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad you said that. I guess I would have said the same thing. I'd also recommend like I've done pole dancing before and it really hurts your wrist, so make sure you take care of your wrist. But in terms of like bike swimming and dancing, I just feel like if we're shy, try doing it alone before, do it with friends around you until you're confident enough.
Yeah,
um I couldn't do a push up, so I started doing it at home, and now I can do push ups, some of them. But like, it's those little things that like understanding your comfort level and pushing yourself a little more outside of it.
yeah. Also, ignore the comments. Ignore the negative
The
comments. We
haters,
get a
yeah,
lot of them. Some of
yeah,
them were not like it's not intentional, but ignore it or make fun of it.
yeah. I mean,
Turn it to something funny and just laugh at it.
yeah, I've always said this: don't take feedback of those who you wouldn't ask advice from. So
Hmm.
if you're not, they're going to be haters. You can't process or take any criticism from all of them if you wouldn't go to them personally and ask advice from them. I hope that makes sense. I We're at the last 10 minutes of the session.
Okay.
Mm, um, yeah,
How do you deal with unnecessary guilt which was forced into our minds? I used to get depressed even in Germany whenever I get a letter from my mom or anything telling me that I ruined her life, or people would bully her, or society would like uh, reject her after me leaving. I used to get a lot of like difficulties mentally on a mental scale. Uh, I used to lay in bed depressed, but at the same time, I told myself that this is my life, and we both got our life ruined, and some of us has to live. We
yeah,
cannot be both victims of this society. It's gonna be the same whether I left or I stayed. And also, I would advise to cut the contact whenever you get this kind of thoughts, this kind of emotional manipulation. Try to cut contact and stay in your safe zone, like do your things, focus on your future. Do not look at the past because it's gonna pull you behind. So when I got this kind of problems, issues, mental issues because of this emotional manipulation, I really uh, I tried to cut off the contact with them and just be independent, focus on my future, and that worked. When I separated myself from all of this, like mind games and emotional blackmailing. So you have to stop it. You have to
yeah,
tell them first that do not respond. This is number one. Do not respond in any way. Second, tell them that if they will not stop manipulating you emotionally, you will cut the contact. If they do not respond, cut it.
yeah.
So you don't need to feel guilty about anything. This is your life. You're free to do whatever you want. This is your basic human right that you will practice, and is nothing to make you feel guilty about. This is all like just games that they play, so they gaslight you or manipulate you. So cut the contact and focus on your future. Do things you love, exercise, fill your daily life with things that you enjoy. Read, go out with friends, and you will not uh, be subjected to this kind of mental issues anymore.
Um, I guess have you met Rana? Are you in the same city with Rana?
She's in a different states. I aspire actually to meet her, but we did not have the chance to meet yet.
Yeah. She said she knew
But
about you.
she's very. I was contacting her before I leave Saudi Arabia. Uh, she's a very
Passionate.
great person,
Yeah.
passionate. She's very supportive of all Saudi Arabian women who have the same experience. So I aspire to meet her when I have the chance.
Yeah. Rana is amazing, and like even like outside all her media publications, even when we're out, even when we're in the restaurant,
Yeah,
she's very assertive. She is somebody you do not want to mess with. So we got along
yeah, she's
really
a
well.
hardcore.
We were like two firecrackers meeting, and we're like, oh my god, this is amazing. And oh no,
Yes,
she's
actually, when I one time I contacted her when I was in Saudi Arabia, she started crying because I told her that I'm really I really wish that I would get the space and the freedom that she have, and she started really crying that uh, she's inspiring women to get their freedom.
yeah,
So she's a very passionate, she's a very great woman that I aspire to meet.
yeah. She's really nice. I do love her. I think we were meant to meet end of this year, but I don't think we're going to because of thank you coronavirus. I am going to take there was this one question. How can women work as electrical workers in Saudi?
I think I have to just a little bit. I'm not just gonna get my charger because my phone is threatening me.
Yeah. I think with women and
Sorry.
working in Saudi Arabia, they do take the same degrees, but they're only allowed to work in spaces where women are there. So it wouldn't so like women working in banks, they can still
Yeah,
get
I
that
am
job
there.
provided they're not segregated with men. Is that correct, Khulud?
Uh, how can women work in electric in Saudi Arabia? Uh, they most of them are from not Saudi women, and they don't have this problem with hijab and
Oh,
all. Also in Saudi Arabia, I have to mention sometimes women from other nationalities get more space, especially with hijab. If they are Asian, if they look Asian, nobody would harass them if they did not wear hijab. So mostly they are from Asian countries like Philippines and Indonesia, and yeah, they don't have this same social norms that we have, so they have more space to take off hijab, and it's for them to work in electricity. It's they don't get difficulties or they don't face difficulties from the society
yeah.
as a Saudi woman if they want to.
There's a lot of it. Like I know in Dubai, geez, foreign women, or foreign people get paid more than um, foreign people from Western countries get paid more than the locals, and also
Yeah.
expats who are in a high skilled job. So somebody who works in a store, in a shop, who is as a customer service rep would get paid more than an engineer from India.
Yeah, and actually, this kind of jobs, it's for men. So Saudi women would face difficulties to even do this kind of jobs. So by society, so it's not available for Saudi women. It's only available for foreigners.
Yeah. Um, we ooh, we also had a contribution from Anak. Thank you so much. Um, I'm hoping to keep this on, so we do have a list, and hopefully our next guest, after 3 guests, is going to be a couple. And we're going to talk about secular parenting, which I'm hoping a lot of ex-Muslims can learn from, but also like a lot of the um, ex-Christians can contribute to it. So thank you so much for contributing.
It's a
Sarah
very
wants,
interesting subject.
yeah, it's so basically, I won't spoil it as much, but it is how to raise your kids in a family within a family that's religious. So when you live with your external parents and they're like, your family's religious and they're going to teach them words like inshallah and everything. And then you're
Mm-hmm.
here trying to parent your kids without the fear of hell. So I'm really curious to see how that plays out. Um, yeah, we should definitely try martial arts. You should have, I like Muay Thai, so it's kickboxing, but you do it with your elbows
Mm-hmm.
and knees as well. And if you like football and you don't mind punching a bag, I'd say it's really cool.
Yeah, I was thinking about that before somebody also advised me.
Yeah, it's fun. Okay. I think how can Saudi women survive? I think there are a lot of questions and
It's very hard during summertime. It's very
mhm,
extremely hard because all of that, sometimes in Saudi Arabia, it reaches about 50 degrees, and which is hell. So
yeah.
with this, all of this black sheets on you, it's very, very difficult.
Do you support a football club? I'm just looking at the last questions because I think we're about to leave now.
Excuse me?
Do you support any football clubs?
In Saudi
Like,
Arabia,
yeah, no, so like Manchester. Sorry, I wasn't meant. So like Manchester or any of the English Premier League.
I like Real Madrid actually.
Ooh. Um, so people would love for you to come back and maybe we could focus more on specific topics. I'd love to, I guess at some point it would be nice to know about, I guess, the LGBT community in Saudi Arabia, sexuality, because we spoke a bit about women losing their virginity as
Hmm.
um, a very important topic in Saudi Arabia, and that's why women don't segregate, like women are segregated from like women and men are separated. But it would be
Hmm.
nice to talk about sexuality because I know a lot of people, even in Saudi Arabia, it's not like a lot of people think Muslim women don't have sex, but they do have sex.
Yeah,
Um, so it'd be
it
nice
would
to
be
kind
so interesting, and yeah.
it would be nice to talk about how you have a relationship in Saudi Arabia. What would people do? You know, what are some ways people have, I guess, would hide from parents? And
Yeah,
maybe
this
we,
is so rich subject. You will find a lot of stories and examples, especially from Saudi Arabia, in a country where sex is a taboo and forbidden, and you
yeah.
will face death threats to just practice your sexuality.
Yeah, it would be interesting. Maybe we should have you in support corner with Gada discussing about sexuality and dating in Saudi Arabia. Ooh, maybe we should have you two talk in Arabic and I could just listen.
With a subtitle,
I'm thinking we could just
that
do an
would be so
Arabic session.
difficult.
I think we should just do an Arabic session for, I guess, talking. Like you and Gada could do it. I could be in the background just listening. Um, and we could advertise it on like your platform and her platforms. I think that would be really fun.
Yeah, that would be fun, and I would be glad to
Yeah,
discuss this kind of stuff. It's very interesting, and we need to discuss it
yeah, I
in the Arab world, exactly.
and that's why I think you two should do it in Arabic, because I think that would be helpful. So maybe in a few weeks' time, I'll arrange this with Gada. It'll probably be around this time. and I don't know how good her Arabic is. It probably is. Yeah. But we're about to wrap up. Thank you so much for joining us. Khulud, can people see any of your articles in the UK just before we go?
Yes, if they read German, they would. If they could read German, it's you could find my articles in my Twitter account.
Yeah.
I always post every article that I write,
Yeah. Maybe you could use
and
Google Translate to get a bit of it.
and if you actually Google Translate is horrible for German, so it's
Yeah.
we have this DeepL. It's DEEPL. It's the best translator
Hmm.
for from English to German and German to English. It would
Well,
give
there
you
you go.
very clear translation. So you would find it in my Twitter account.
Yeah. Well, the one thing I do ask every guest is, what would you tell a younger Khulud, or what would you tell other younger people? What advice would you give to your younger self?
If I would advise myself, this is a very important question because I always think that I go back by time and I meet my younger self and I just want to tell that child to calm down
Yeah.
and I would just calm myself down and tell myself that everything's gonna be better in future and I'm gonna reach what I want and I'm gonna get rid of all of my problems.
Yeah. Well, thank you. So that is actually really nice. Sometimes I do wish we could tell that to our past selves.
Yeah,
Um, but thank you so much for coming on. I thought this would be an hour because I didn't know how late it was there, but this has been amazing. And it was so nice catching up with you, even on a public channel. I guess there were parts of your story that I still didn't know. And I'm so you look so happy because I remember when we first spoke, you just look so
yeah.
happy and vibrant. So thank you so much for being here.
Thank you. Thank you
Great.
so much. It was a pleasure, and I'm always glad to discuss this kind of topics,
Yeah, we'll
especially with
have.
you.
Yeah, I would love it. So I will actually get Gada to talk to you in Arabic about sex and sexuality in Saudi Arabia.
That's
Because I
cool.
think I think that would be great. I'm just going to end the broadcast, but you can stay on because we'll just finish this up. Great. Thank you so much. Bye, guys.